Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the RotoWire After Dark Euro DFS strategy show. My name is Jack Burkart. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Burkart. I am joined after a couple well-deserved days off, as usual, by Ryan Belongia. We're going to break down tomorrow's 4-game, 2-stagger time slate, which looks to be a lot of fun. But Ryan, first we have to talk about what happened today, as personally embarrassing as it is. And Ryan, I want you to get into the headspace, right? You're Jack Burkart. You have a Patreon with projections, and you write the following the night before the slate. I have no set pieces for Grimaldo. I'm being conservative with his floor, but the upside is insane. I want to play him in cash. And then you wake up in the morning and you write, apparently Grimaldo is the only left-footed player. Might be important for set pieces. And then Ryan, the Spain lineup comes out, and it's easy to afford Grimaldo. And when you run your projections against an optimizer, Grimaldo shows up in half the lineups. So if you're me, who likes playing cash games, you play Grimaldo in cash, right? Well, I didn't. Is there a bigger donkey on DraftKings.com than me, who suffers a 20-point bomb from Grimaldo, who did absolutely everything for Spain? Ryan, I stink at this game. What an awful day overall.
It happens to the best of us, Jack. But you know what? It might be worse. You could be me and play Grimaldo and still not cash. So I mean, I don't really feel any better. Yeah, a little bit of annoying slate. Didn't really want to talk about it too much, but just, with the 4 Spain forwards, I was surprised to see Ferran Torres the most popular by far. Not by far, but actually, yeah, he was considerably the most popular. That surprised me. That goal, he was the one who I faded. The goal was really annoying. He had the lowest floor of all 4 of them, even lower than Oyarzabal, which is hard to do. I thought those 2 were, probably going to get subbed first too. I liked Olmo to play longer, and yeah, I don't know. So in 70+% Ferran Torres scores, it's going to be a rough slate. But yeah, I made some mistakes. I probably shouldn't have just jammed Spain. I got it in my head that Spain were going to score 3 or 4. Although it's not like the other, no one on Italy did anything. So you didn't want anyone from Italy. Even Modric got there. It's kind of annoying that I didn't click Modric, but he only had 5 floor points if you take away the penalty miss and the goal. So I don't feel too bad about it. Asllani was the one though, right? Asllani had 18 floor points. We could have clicked that. I should have too, because he fit for me, but just always chasing upside, and I didn't want to play him with Raya. I was like, oh, let me play Susic in an attacking role instead, especially if I'm not playing Modric. So I'm going to need the Croatia goal to come from somewhere, because then Modric is going to bust, if he doesn't get involved. Yeah, slate with a lot of variance. Annoying, but, fancy myself something of a Zen master these days, Jack. So we just let this one roll off the back and we're on to the next.
I, too, am something of a Zen master. It just feels like it's 2 years ago when I was learning how to play this game, Ryan. I spent up for Danny Olmo, who was 11K, where he needed to take set pieces to kind of pay off this floor, when I could have spent down, played a more balanced lineup, and played Grimaldo, whose floor was I projected him at his floor, and it was only intergalactic ceiling from there, and everything went through him, and we know he's a talented player. So I'm just really frustrated by that. I mean, I thought Oyarzabal would take some set pieces, worst possible run out, but also some bad decisions.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I slightly disagree with you about. I think Olmo is the second guy in for me after Grimaldo if I play this slate again. I think he's going to play longer. I want the Spain guy that's playing central, and also almost broke the slate. He had the best 2 chances. He should have scored that goal middle of the second half, and then you're going to need him. I don't know. I thought he was the safest, and I thought he had the highest open play floor. And he did. It wasn't that high. Sorry, Grimaldo did, but Olmo had the higher floor of the forwards. I don't know. I just didn't like really any Italy pieces, and maybe you play Modric, but I still think you can afford Olmo and Grimaldo and then just go from there. Of course you can afford him with Asllani. He was 3,700, so just play the best play, I think.
Yeah. Probably. A lot of frustrating features. I think Raspadori was pretty good on Italy. He might have been a player who got a floor, who looked like he had set pieces. But I don't know. Tough slate. It was weird. We don't see many slates where the Spain team completely rotates. Tough to make any actionable takeaways. I mean, if Grimaldo plays, he's going to be a lock in the future. It almost feels that way. We'll have to tell from context. But yeah, I'm just going to wear the L. And I don't know. Maybe hopefully we'll be better down the line. Ryan, I too am a Zen master. I don't tilt. We trust the process here on the show, and the process dictates that we must analyze this 4-game slate. It's a really interesting one. We have 2 games at noon and 2 games at 3. The first pair of games, France are big favorites against Poland. I think Poland are all but eliminated. I think officially France need a win to guarantee that they finish first place, but it's a good spot for them. We're projecting Kylian Mbappe back in the lineup, so great spot for France overall, though they definitely take things slow. Ryan, my favorite matchup of the day as far as the game I want to watch the most is Netherlands-Austria. I love Ralf Rangnick. He's a guy who trusts the process and plays nice analytics-driven, high-pressing soccer. It could be a pretty high-scoring game against the Netherlands, so I like that game a lot for GPPs. Some good cash game targets, too. Netherlands slight favorites there. At 3 p.m., we have boring England as big favorites against Slovenia, blah, blah, blah. And then we have Denmark as slight favorites against a slightly disappointing Serbia, who kind of seem to have some unrest in their team with how they tactically set up. Ryan, when you opened the slate up, what were you thinking when you were looking at these matchups?
Well, France and England in great spots, and 2 teams that are kind of tough and kind of frustrating. England for sure. It's always tough to know what to do with England, and really good spot here, 2 total. But I mean, we've seen they've disappointed twice in a row now, and more than that if you go back to the last tournament. So deciding what to do with them is tough. Big Ralf Rangnick fan here too. It's nice to see him having a good time after the disaster at United. He kind of got an unfair shake there. So yeah, Austria's playing well, and that game could be back and forth. And I don't think really, I don't think people are going to play that game too much. So I think for tournaments, yeah, that's a good shout. I think people will just try to play the best pieces from France and England. It will leave the other 2 games pretty low owned.
Yeah, I agree overall, Ryan. What about the Denmark-Serbia game? Does that sound interesting to you overall? The one game we didn't really mention. It's been really frustrating minutes for Serbia. Tadic called out the manager for not playing him after the first game. That's what I meant with unrest. So I'm not eager to play Serbia pieces outside of Denmark, only playing Christian Eriksen. Who knows? That's
kind of what I think too, because Denmark have 4 points, right? Or only 3?
We can check that.
Let me check quick. Oh no, only 2. Yeah, okay. So Denmark need a win here, right? For some reason I thought they didn't need a win, but they do need a win here. Okay. And yeah, I think I have been very disappointed in Serbia. I thought they were really bad last game. And I think Denmark's been pretty decent. I don't know. They drew England. I thought they were unlucky not to win the first game. Yeah, obviously it's a good spot for Eriksen. I think you're probably going to want Eriksen in cash games. And then the other guy is probably good tournament plays, in the late game. I don't know. I don't know if I see many people clicking Denmark outside of Eriksen. They have some cheap defenders that people might play, but there's some opportunity in that game. There's some cheap pieces on the Serbia side too, though. I mean, you could use a Serbia piece. The prices are pretty appealing. So yeah, for tournaments, they look fine.
Yeah, I agree overall. I guess I wanted to talk about the Denmark-Serbia and Netherlands-Austria game kind of early on, mostly from a GPP point of view, because I agree, Ryan, we're probably just going to want to take, players with good roles, maybe some Dutch players in cash, but prioritize getting France and England guys in there. But I do think it's good to look at these 2 games. And with, I think, all 4 of those teams in the Netherlands, so Netherlands, Austria, Denmark, and Serbia, I think they could all use a win. Though I think Netherlands and Austria both advanced with a draw. So maybe that's some slight downside, something we can take a look at later in the show. Ryan, we have our projected lineups up here. It's a little bit difficult there's always going to be surprises in an international tournament. For example, we have a 3-man midfield in for France, but maybe Marcus Thuram starts instead and one of Tchouaméni and Rabiot has to make way. I've seen that projected. Is there anything in the lineups that you see here that you think might be different? For example, I've seen Patrick Wimmer, who takes set pieces. He might be in and cheap for Austria. I don't know. Is there anything you see that you think might change?
Yeah, I could see France playing Thuram, over Tchouaméni and moving Rabiot back. But yeah, I was going to say something about England, but it looks like the two things I was going to say we got. I think Conor Gallagher is going to come in for Trent. That seems pretty nailed on if you believe the reports. And then looks like Trippier is dealing with an injury, so Ezri Konsa is going to start at left back because Luke Shaw's not ready yet. Seems like they prefer Ezri Konsa to Joe Gomez, and Konsa's $1,300 cheaper. He's not guaranteed to start, but I mean that's $3,400. It's pretty good for Konsa in this spot if you want to gamble.
Yeah, and you have a late swap to Mark Gahey at 3,100, so seems like a completely reasonable shout overall. Ryan, let's dig into forward position. It's kind of interesting. I feel like there's good options across the price range. We're projecting Kylian Mbappe to play, even though he has a broken nose. That's something I've seen all media outlets say. He's got minus 155 goal scoring odds, about 60%. But boy, does he cost a pretty penny at $12,100. I don't even know if this affects his playing time as well, the nose injury, Ryan. You could very easily see him go something like 70 minutes and go off early, especially if France get a lead. Harry Kane is 10,400. He also has very good goal scoring odds. But if you go down ticket a little bit, Ryan, there's some interesting forwards to play. There's Antoine Griezmann, who should take most of France's set pieces. You have Cody Gakpo in a decent spot for the Netherlands. And then if Joey Veerman doesn't start, Memphis Depay has been taking set pieces. And Ryan, I don't really care for Serbia that much, but you could play Dusan Tadic at 7,500. And I even think Marcel Sabitzer is playable. He had a good floor against France. He looked great in the game against Poland. At only 7,700, he fills a forward spot. I like him less with Wimmer, though. What do you think is optimal from the forward position, Ryan?
Yeah, it's tough. I think he broke it down pretty well. Griezmann seems like the first guy in. Just best matchup, set pieces. You feel like he's probably going to play 90 minutes, and he's just way cheaper than Mbappe. Tough question, whether to play Mbappe again. We always talk about how he's lost us quite a bit of money more times than not. And the thing about this slate is, like, if you play Mbappe, you can really only afford two other, quote unquote studs. Let's just say guys over like 7,500. But if you don't play Mbappe, you can play an extra one and maybe even spend up at defender. So, or spend up at one spot, if you want to play like a Frimpong or somebody else with upside. Or else you play Mbappe and then you probably only get two of those, 8K guys. I guess you got to decide if you like Mbappe enough, if you like the punts enough. We'll talk about the punts later, but there's a few options at midfield. I don't think any of them are great, but there's a few you could take chances on if you want to play Mbappe. I think there is a little bit of a sub risk that normally wouldn't be there, which is pretty annoying when you consider how expensive he is. Normally, he's like a lock for 90 minutes in these spots, but can't really say that here. Although, it is only, it's a broken nose, so nothing with his legs or whatever. Like, if they needed this game or if this was a knockout game, he'd be playing 90 for sure. But because it really doesn't mean anything, yeah, you could see him getting subbed.
Yeah, right. That's a tough call that you have to make. For me, I'm looking at a trade-off. Like, if this is the starting 11 for the Netherlands, which it does not feature Joey Veerman, Memphis Depay is only $7,900, and he'll take corners, and he's played 80 minutes, I think, in both matches. That seems like a pretty good play to me, Ryan. As does Cody Gakpo, who's looked really terrific with the Netherlands. So I don't know. Do you like the Netherlands forwards in this spot? You're on mute.
Yeah, I mean, not quite as much as you, but I think they have upside. I just say not quite as much as you because I think Austria is a pretty good team. I think Netherlands don't really need this. I think they can lose in advance. We'll have to see. But I also, I don't kind of worried about all of their minutes, except maybe Gakpo, but also maybe this is where you sub Gakpo. But like, Yeah, I don't know. They're fine plays, but I know I respect this Austria team enough, and I worry that Netherlands aren't playing for too much. I guess they're more tournament plays for me. I don't think they're good enough plays for cash games.
Interesting.
Like,
I do agree this could be a bit of a drawish game, Ryan.
even if Veerman doesn't start, 7,900 to pie seems like a fine click for cash games, but wouldn't be jumping to do it. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm too low on it, but yeah, I don't know. I guess that's all I can say.
We have a whole night to think about it. But Ryan, I think Depay will take penalties if he's on. And then we have seen him take corners. You're getting a slightly favored $7,900 set piece taker. So if you just know that info, it seems heuristically fine. I do feel I was bullish on the matchup heading into this, but talking with you, I do feel that there is definitely also some floor risk, some floor downside in this matchup as well. That's worth pointing out. I do feel like Austria are a good team. They'll press, but that also might create opportunities for the Netherlands. It's overall
You're
tough
right.
to tell.
No, you're right. The game absolutely has 2-2 potential, something like that. I just worry that guys are going to get subbed. I don't know. Maybe too much, but doesn't seem like either team really has much to play for.
Yep, I think I have to co-sign that based on the state of the group currently, especially with France such heavy favorites to win. I think the Netherlands are a long shot to even win first place if they get a win, and Austria should comfortably advance as a third place team if they go through. A win is handy, but if they lose, they run risk of maybe not qualifying whatsoever. So all important things to think about. Ryan, from maybe a more tournament point of view, it's when you think about tournaments, it's easier to make lineups that make room for someone like Harry Kane or someone like Kylian Mbappe. But are any of these down ballot forwards interesting to you at all? I mean, I'm seeing $6,500 for Rasmus Højlund. Mitrovic played 90 minutes in the previous game. Now, maybe he could be subbed off at 60. It's tough to tell with the Serbian coach, but cheap options: $6,200 Mitrovic, $5,600 Vlahovic, $5,200 Sesko, even against England. I know you'll click that at least once, Ryan. What are you thinking from tournaments for forward? How gross are you willing to go on this 4-game slate?
Yeah, I was looking at some of the guys from the Denmark-Serbia game. Those Serbia guys let us down pretty hard last time, me at least. But yeah, they're cheap enough, and there's just not a lot of cheap forwards on this slate. Could see Luka Jovic start. I mean, Vlahovic and Mitrovic haven't been great, and they haven't been great together. And Jovic came on and scored. He's only 5,100. I'll play some, Jack. I think I'll just kind of rotate them all in because, I don't really want to play Poland forwards, Slovenia. Maybe play Sesko. I don't mind maybe having Sesko. He's 5,200, and then if Jovic surprisingly starts, you could swap to him for the same price. I think I'll just mix these guys in though. Even the Denmark guys, I was trying to sell myself. I'll take a chance on Højlund again now that he's 6,500. But I mean, he has no floor, and he's going to get subbed for sure. They have two other center forwards on the bench that they like to play. So I don't know. I don't particularly like any of them, but I think they're all decent GPP plays, so I'm sure I will have exposure.
Yeah, it just helps facilitate playing Harry Kane or Kylian Mbappe. So I think that's something it's a reasonable spot to look overall.
Go
ahead.
No, Stajoto's got a good point though. Actually, I don't want to just write off Slovenia because it's England. We've seen that England can't really shut a game down, and they allow some floor. So yeah, don't mind taking a chance on Slovenia guys. They're cheap enough, and England they're not a Portugal or a Spain or a France necessarily that are just going to kill off the game, and you're not going to get any chances.
Yeah, I agree. I don't mind taking a rip on a Sesko in a tournament or a Sporar who's 4,600, especially if it helps you spend up in other key spots. England are just not a dominant team, and even if they get the lead, I think they've proven that they're going to give Slovenia some possession. I don't think these issues are just going to fix themselves. So it definitely seems fine, especially if you, well, I don't know if I want to play multiple England players, Ryan. So maybe I'll retract that prematurely. But those guys are on the table on Slovenia, at least in GPPs.
For sure.
Any final takeaways from the forward position, Ryan?
Not really. I mean, I think the two secondary France guys are decent GPP plays. I just think they kind of go overlooked. Dembele and Thuram, just in the low 8Ks. I feel like people will, either play Griezmann or Mbappe, or they're maybe save spots for the later games. I don't think they'll be low owned, but with France, having sort of by far the highest total and in the best spot, I think they're decent GPP plays. And then, England, I don't think it's going to happen, but I've seen people talking about maybe Bellingham moving back and you'll get like Eze or Anthony Gordon in there. Anthony Gordon's over 10K, so I don't know if I could go there. I mean, I don't think many people would go there, but just something to look for.
Yeah, I've seen the same lineups with Phil Foden maybe going in central. That would be fairly interesting, I think, but England's one of these teams that gets leaked, so maybe that's information that we'll have in the morning. And if we have it, we'll post it in the Discord, rotowire.com/chat. A lot of good chatter going on, especially if you want to be playing the Copa America, which is going on right now. So please join us if you're not already a subscriber, rotowire.com/soccer trial. Thumbs up, comments. Thank you to everyone in the chat so far. AJ saying, can we get Cole Palmer some love, please? It is a bit ridiculous after the season Cole Palmer had that it doesn't seem like he has a shot to sniff this starting 11, Ryan.
Yeah, something like they don't want to. He's like not part of their plans right now. I can't even really speculate on it. I don't know.
I know he plays on the right, and Saka's been absolutely terrific, so it's tough, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, he's not going to play ahead of Saka. Could he play in the center? I don't know. I guess I wouldn't start him either. I don't think he's better than Foden. At least not. I don't know. Not really a debate we need to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to fix that. England just kind of don't really know what to do overall. Let's move on to midfield. Really good play in Christian Eriksen. It's a spot where Denmark need a result, and Eriksen has a very elite role and has posted fairly ridiculous floors, Ryan, averaging 5 chances created per match so far. He seems like an easy, comfy click in cash games, maybe the only lock in cash games, perhaps. And there's a couple other interesting guys. Foden should at least take half sets, especially with our lineup. Ryan, maybe he takes more. I'm not sure who the other half of the England sets would be overall. But I think, we'll talk about GPPs later where you might want to spend up again. Ryan, I think it's all about the 4K price midfielders where there's quite a few options to play. We might see Patrick Vimmer at 4,700. Rabiot is underpriced at 4,000. He's a player who's made marauding runs, frustratingly no end product, but a player who has a decent floor as well. So what do you think about the state of the midfield position? Is there enough value to support spending up for a Harry Kane or an Mbappe in cash games?
Yeah, I mean, there might be, and it also might be a trap. Start with Rabiot. If he plays more forward, for sure. If he plays, in the, next to Conte and Tchouaméni's not in there, then I don't know. Then he's more likely to get subbed. He doesn't have high a floor. See the first game, he came off at 70. I think, he's one of their more important players. He'd get subbed again. So yeah, maybe Rabiot, but also maybe not. The England lineup, who's gonna take those set pieces? Because without Trippier in there either, it would fall to either Conor Gallagher or Declan. And I guess I'm not sure. We'll have to check into that. Maybe, like you said, maybe Foden just takes more. But I don't know. I feel like he would split. I mean, they like their right-footed corner kicks. Feels like Declan or Connor would probably split. Yeah, Eriksson, probably a lock for cash, right? He's been great. I thought he could have done even better against England. Got in some good spots. Could have had an assist or two. So yeah, for cash games, that seems like a pretty easy click. I like Foden here. Is Foden going to be chalk on this slate, Jack, or is he? Eriksson will be more popular, you would think, right? You have to pay for France guys. Could Foden get overlooked here?
I don't think you want to ask
No?
the guy who faded Alex Grimaldo in cash who the popular guy is going to be necessarily. It depends, I think, Ryan, on if Patrick Vimmer starts, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I could see Rabiot being like a 40-50% guy in cash. Ryan, I'm a little bit more bullish on him, especially if it's the 3-man midfield. He even ventured up on the left a little bit. I think I was talking to you or DMing you. I just think he's a terrific player. AJ's in the chat talking about him having very horrible end product, but the player has a decent floor.
Yeah, Jack, the 3-man midfield, I'm all in for sure.
Okay. Yeah. But if it's the 2-man.
But if it's the 2-man, then he's just fine. But like I said, I think he gets subbed more likely. I mean, he's probably going to get subbed anyways, but just doesn't have as much upside in the 2-man. But no, I'm a big fan. Rabiot was the key to me winning at one of those big World Cup slates where I stacked France. He was like 6,800, and nobody wanted to click that, obviously. Always a fan of Rabiot. Vimmer, yeah, he seems like cash game play if he starts, right? Taking set pieces for 4,700. And you'll know that because he's in the first, he's in the early games.
Yeah.
But just going back to Foden, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but, there's sort of some negative talk surrounding Foden, and we have Eriksson on this slate for the same price. I'm still pretty bullish on Foden. I think we could see a Foden masterclass tomorrow. It's kind of like he's got something to prove again.
Yeah, maybe, especially if he was a little bit more central, which feels more natural, Ryan. I'm just saying, like, if Patrick Vimmer starts and like there's good news on Rabiot, I could see Foden not being chalk in cash games because then you play two cheaper midfielders with Eriksson. But if we see no Vimmer, then I think there's going to be some ownership that goes Foden's way, or people playing different second forwards, because I think you can play like Gakpo in a midfield position as well. It'll be interesting to see overall.
Just I agree with what Ozzy's saying. They need to let Foden run the show. I think Foden was low-key England's best player last game. I know he struggled in the first game, but people are unnecessarily down on Foden, and he truly is like one of the world's best players. So I think tomorrow might be an opportunity.
For sure. Ryan, two cheaper options I like in GPPs. Surprisingly, Tchouaméni is a player who has a reasonable floor for France, and we've seen him take a lot of shots from distance. As a defender, he can get some cheap tackles as well. So if you're playing a few France players already in a GPP team and you want to throw in a Tchouaméni, I think that's a good shout. And Ryan Reinders on the Netherlands is also a player who's gotten into some good positions if you like that match. Again, GPPs only overall. Ryan, do you like any of these more expensive players for GPPs? Jude Bellingham was a massive disappointment, and Xavi Simons is in this kind of awkward 6,800 phase. Someone the machine never projects quite well. It's usually because he gets subbed off very early. But man, he basically scored a goal. It was rudely called off. I don't think the goalkeeper was going to save it whatsoever. Do you think Simons is a contrarian play in tournaments?
Yeah, and he might be a pretty good one. You could get a lineup where if you didn't see Veerman or Depay, then you might have Simons on set pieces. People thought he might even take over Depay, but that didn't happen. But I've just, it's possible that Weghorst could start instead of Depay, and then you might see Simons on sets, and I still think he would be under-owned. But yeah, it's a good price tag. Who did you mention before that? Jude? Yeah, I think he's going to go overlooked. Decent tournament play. Some other cheap guys you can take a chance on too. I see somebody mention Adam Charon in the chat. wasn't necessarily thinking about him, but I get it. Yeah, I mean, 90 minutes and set pieces, maybe luck into an assist. We might see Milinkovic-Savic back in the lineup. He's only 3,600. You probably want to see where he's playing. Sometimes he's too defensive, but sometimes he's, part of the front three or the front four. He has goals in him. And then, my guy on Denmark can't be that much worse than these guys for 3,300. We saw him score a beautiful goal against England. I mean, if you need it, like, can't be that much worse than like an Adam Charon, right?
Yeah, it's a Husland or something. I completely bungle.
Yeah,
Hulmander or something. However I say his name, and I will learn it. He scored an absolutely terrific goal. Aaron, I just look at all these names. I don't mind playing any of these guys. I don't mind playing Milinkovic-Savic. I don't mind playing Hjulmand. I don't mind Charon. I mind maybe a little bit, but England shows some vulnerability. I don't think Sejodo is completely off base suggesting that. So
no, the other guy, it would be a gamble, but I don't think Declan is the worst play on this slate, just because he might find himself taking some corners. And he also has the odd goal in him. I mean, it's not going to happen a lot, but you probably get 90 minutes, and maybe you get some corners if there's no Trippier in there either.
I'll remind the audience that Ryan is an Arsenal fan. My terrible take at midfielder is Tchouaméni. Similar thesis.
Yeah, that's
Declan,
fine
really.
too. No, that's fine. I mean, one, he's 4,800, and then the other is I don't really want to lock. I don't want to lock up a midfield spot with like sort of a questionable play.
Well, it's a terrible take for GPPs, so I think a questionable play would be that.
Like that's kind of like Rabiot for one. Like if he's part of a 3 midfield, then I'll just play him. But if he's in a 2 with Conte, then I was even thinking like do I want to lock up a spot, before we know the lineups, and I don't know.
Yeah, tricky situation overall. Sejodo's asking if Zielinski is worth it. I don't want anything to do with Poland in this spot, Ryan, but they kind of have nothing. If I could try to say something good, Poland have nothing to lose. They've disappointed in major tournaments. Maybe that means they'll attack a little bit more. And Zielinski did have a pretty good floor, better than we expected when we talked about that match before match day 2. I still don't want to go there, especially at 5,900.
Yeah, I just think Poland are a dead team. And even if they're not, I think you'll see like 5 attackers get subbed. 5 of their attackers get subbed. So that worries me too. It would be a contrarian though. I mean, he's been good, but like, do you want to do that against France when they got nothing to play for against, a France team that kept 2 clean sheets already? I don't know.
Maybe in like the 2-gamer, if you want to play 5 France guys in a lineup or something like that, that might be a fun tactic. But I'm sure it sure
worked today if you wanted to play Aslani. I mean, Zielinski is a little bit more expensive. It's a little bit different spot, but it can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Although it won't be France's B team. I think that maybe was another factor. Ryan, any final words on midfield?
No, I don't think so.
Ryan, I think we're going to be talking about a lot of punts at the defender position, but there are a couple interesting spend-up options. We have Taylor Hernandez at 5,900 for France. I think he had like a 5-point floor. He's just not the same. He doesn't have the same upside, I think, as he has with AC Milan. When you're priced at 6K, I get a little bit squeamish. Ryan, the player I want to ask you about is Jeremy Frimpong. This is a tough player for me to get a handle on in the projections process. He's a player who might start as like a right forward or a right midfielder. Tons of pace, tons of upside, only 60 minutes. And if there's no Weghorst, probably not someone to cross into. I watched very intently, and there were some moments where Frimpong wanted to cross, but I don't think you're going to be sending many crosses to Memphis Depay, who I think I'm taller than. Do you think spending up for Frimpong is a cash move? A terrifically talented player, and I'm a little bit scared after what's happened with Grimaldo and Mittelstadt in spots where I've doubted attacking defenders with really good logs for club.
Yeah. I think he would be a much better play if Veghorst started, like you said. You'd really like to see him have somebody to cross to, or else while he's, I really like him as a player, he doesn't really have a floor. He's just got goal and assist upside, basically playing as a winger. It's almost like a similar play to like Xavi Simons. I don't know, in a way where they both don't really have a floor. They have upside, but they're also probably going to get subbed early, 60, 70 minutes. But I like Frimpong because, he can outscore the position with a goal. And the position's kind of weak on this slate. So I think it's a good tournament play, but I don't think you need to do it in cash games just because it's not a great matchup either. So, you're playing like a $5,700 winger who's going to get 65 minutes in a neutral matchup. It's just not a cash play for me, more of a tournament play. But I guess if Veghorst started, I think that you got to say that significantly adds to their floor. I mean, we see it happen all the time with a bunch of teams, depending on whether they have a big center forward or not, if they're going to cross the ball or not. I mean, teams are just getting smarter, and that's what happens. So, yeah, if Weghorst starts, I would have more interest.
I definitely agree. I think Ozzy is joking here. We have a $5,000 now Eric Janza against England. And then Zan Karnichnik. These are two players who have scored a goal. It's the fullback scoring meta. I do not think we're going to be paying a premium for Slovenia fullbacks, but go ahead in GPPs where, again, England show that they're willing to give space to their opponents. Ryan, some good cheap defenders to play, and I think that's another case against someone like Frimpong in cash, even though he's a terrific player. Yeah, like 3,300 Nathan Ake, who's absolutely a chance-creating machine so far. Part of my DFS axis of evil. I think I'll officially confirm that. And then other cheap options, you got Mark Gahey at 3,100. Konsa might be cheap overall. Then I think there was someone I was telling you about who was 3,600. Yeah, Victor Christensen. He had a really early sub, but reasonable spot for Denmark, and he's an attacking player, especially as a wingback. Feels kind of cozy, Ryan, just to click two of these guys in this range because either good clean sheet odds or, decent fullback.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I was going to say, do you think we see any of the Janza sharps come back out? 5K here, averaging 15. The DK points, probably going to take some corners.
He was good in qualifying too. I don't know. I might play him in a couple tournament lineups.
Yeah, just defender position's pretty weak, so it's not the worst. But yeah, I'm looking at those punts. I like Gahey for 3,100 just because he's the cheapest of all the favorites, and England have the best clean sheet odds.
Like 50%, it's crazy.
50%, right? Yeah, and Gahey's looked pretty good the first two games, especially last game. So I don't mind going there. Yeah, you mentioned Ake is fine too. Christensen. I would rather find the 500 to get up to Ba, but yeah, Christensen's fine too. I just feel like if it's Ba and Christensen who start, Christensen's going to get subbed again early, and Ba's going to play 90. I also think Ba is just a little bit better, has a little bit better floor, but obviously he's 500 more. So either one of those guys are fine.
Ryan, is it Ba who can play on both sides of the field, or is that Mela? I remember the announcer saying something about this.
Mela does.
Okay.
But yeah, it seems like he would come on for Christensen. Maybe Ba does too. I don't know, but Mela's the one that they'll play on either side.
Yeah, I agree. Ba looks good overall. I've played him when he was in Benfica slates many times, so he's a play. And he was in good positions when he had his previous start overall. Yeah, I mean, I think there's plenty of value, like William Saliba for France, if you want to play Mike Maignan in a tournament. You're going to be able to find a cheap center back or a reasonably attacking player. I mean, you could even pay 3,200 for Stojanovic on Slovenia if you don't have the 1,800 to get up to Eric Janza in your England and Slovenia stacks. Yeah, I think it's as straightforward as that, right?
Yeah, are we sure that Depay takes pens and not Virgil van Dijk?
I felt more confidence until about 5 seconds ago.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
That's
I
a
know
great
Van
question.
Dijk has taken a couple recently, and I'm not sure what the priority is there. Or maybe Depay wasn't even on the field when Van Dijk. I'm going to look into that, but I just saw Van Dijk there and thought, oh, maybe he has penalties.
At 4,100, I mean, Van Dijk is a player who gets shots sometimes too.
Yeah,
Not a bad shout.
He nearly scored against Poland. Szczesny made a great save.
Wasn't that like a ridiculous, like Zlatan, like scissor kick that he
side
took?
volley? Yeah. So yeah, I think he's fine with possible pens. But yeah, it's a slate where I think I'm paying down for the most part. Do like Frimpong for tournaments. Oh, you mentioned Teo. Yeah, I think he's a little expensive. I kind of like Jules Koundé just as a contrarian play. I don't think people will play him, but
he was getting up the field.
I like Koundé. Yeah, he's gonna get up the field. He has like the odd assist in him, but he also has defensive stats in him. He's an absolute beast of a defender. I mean, he defensive wise, he's just like a rock at right back, and he does get forward and put in some crosses. So I don't mind that. You know, you get the clean sheet, and he can finish with like 10 points, even more sometimes. I think it's okay for GPPs.
Yeah, I mean, why not with good clean sheet odds? If you have the money, you're kind of free rolling some attacking upside, which I think he showed in his positioning in the previous matchup, Ryan. So I'm going to co-sign that take. Hopefully it doesn't doom it overall. Any other final takes for the defender position?
No, I don't think so.
Well, Ryan, we finally have 4 matches. That means we have 8 goalkeepers to choose from. I almost feel like I can just scroll down to the cheapest one, just as if it was one of our friendly Saturday 10 a.m. Eastern Premier League slates. What do you think about the goalkeeper position? Do you want to find the 6K to get disappointed by Jordan Pickford? Or maybe he'll do the David Raya ridiculous floor because, Asllani was getting shots on target. I don't know. Give us some goalkeeper takes.
Well, the expensive ones have done pretty well lately. You after the start of the tournament where it wasn't that, it was, on the slate before, Castiles put up 18 and Costa put up 16, and what we had Raya put up whatever 16 or 18 today. Somebody else, I don't know. They've been doing okay, and there's some good. Magnan's done it both times for France. So you got to feel like one of England or France is going to keep a clean sheet. I feel that way. I'm not going to make it a priority to spend up. It's almost impossible to spend up if you want to play Mbappe. But I don't necessarily want to spend all the way down either. I think it's fine for cash games, either one, Szczesny or Oblak. I mean, a little worried about England in that they might not pepper the goal like some of these other favorites.
I'll say it. I'm not going to play Oblak.
Yeah.
I'll play Szczesny instead.
So like a long-winded way of saying, I don't mind Pence. I just think Austria can win the game, and he's 4,400. That match is kind of like a coin flip to me. So yeah, I don't mind him, but yeah, like for cash games, I don't mind paying all the way down either. And then for tournaments, yeah, I guess like I said, I'll be able to find the money to spend up on some lineups, but I assume I'll be playing cheap keepers. Probably, I don't know, maybe more so. It's on Mbappe lineups for sure. I don't know. What do you think, Jack?
I am going to go with not going for Oblak since England are not a volume shooting team, and I don't see the save bailout there. But I can just spend 200 more for Szczesny. Is France that much better? I think they're $200 better at the very least. I agree with your Pence shouts just because, I don't know, I'll kind of be rooting for Austria, so I want some Pence lineups. But they do feel like they have reasonable odds to win, especially, $400 more than Szczesny. You're getting about a 20% increase in implied win probability, which seems like
a lot.
Fairly good deal. Yeah, that's quite a lot. So that seems like a fairly good deal to me. So, probably in cash, I might spend all the way up. It depends if I play Harry Kane. Otherwise, Pence or Szczesny. It seems
maybe pick'em was, a little bit too strong of a word for that match, but I just, it's not going to surprise me if Austria win. That's all. I think they've been playing well, and I don't know what we're going to see from the Dutch here. I think France are going to rip shots at Chesney, especially Mbappe. So yeah, I think he has more save upside than Oblak. Probably, but who knows? But yeah, that'd be my guess.
It's a little bit of astrology with these goalkeepers, Ryan. So I won't get too ahead of my skis on stuff.
It is like a soft matchup for England too, though, and they have a ton to prove, especially attacking. So I'm sure they got guys that are going to want to. I feel like we're going to see some more attacking from England tomorrow if they have it in them. Maybe they just aren't capable. I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah, I can see it tomorrow in the Discord. I can't believe I'm losing to Chalk Jan Oblak in show cash games. I certainly hope that's not the case. Ryan, any final takeaways? My final takeaway, it's nice to be back on the show, but it was nice to have a 2-day break. I was suffering from what's known as tout delusion syndrome. I was zoning out during the show, and then you're pronouncing names of Belgian players that I've never heard of before. But it's also nice to be back in the driver's seat.
For sure. I mean, the last show, I know that the last show I did a few days ago, it was awful. I hate to say it. Maybe it wasn't, but I came on here like brain dead for one of the last shows where, I just like couldn't formulate a sentence. Hadn't really thought about the slate that much yet. Yeah, so it was nice to have a break. Then come on here and say some stupid stuff before I even look at the slate. Anyways.
Yeah, I think I was DMing Shu Premica, and I told Shu, I'm like, I don't mind a couple of days off. He's like, yeah, bro, you needed it.
No, it was actually one of those where I started like going through the slate more myself after the pod, and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to go to Discord and like write up a message. I got this wrong. I'm actually gonna play this guy and this guy, even though I said I'm not gonna play. Like it was one of those things.
It happens to the best of us. To some of the pros that do content that might be listening, I have all the respect in the world for you. This is an absolute grind. Like, imagine being a baseball tout, Brian. You just wake up every day, and it's just like you crank the machine over and over, 12 games, 7 games, 8 games, and we're crying about like 6-match Euro. So maybe we have it pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. Ryan and I will be back tomorrow to break down the next 4-gamer. And then, Ryan, I think we have a couple other well-earned days off after putting in a short week. We will be back to break down the round of 16 matches. RotoWire.com/soccer trial for all your Euro needs. Thank you so much. If I can't win, I hope one of you does. Good luck tomorrow, everyone.
Thanks, Jack. Good luck, everybody.